You lost that love and feeling. Whoa, that love and feeling.
Yes, I have.
You've lost that love and feeling. Now it's gone, gone, gone. Whoa, whoa, whoa.
Bringing you law, gospel, and guns. Welcome to Armed Lutheran Radio.
Welcome to Armed Lutheran Radio, a show about guns, hunting, competition, and the natural right of self-defense, and what God's Word says about the issues surrounding gun rights and gun ownership. I'm your host, Lloyd Bailey, the Armed Lutheran, and this is episode 93, brought to you by Cook's Holsters, American-made custom Kydex holsters with a lifetime warranty and a 100% satisfaction guarantee. CooksHolsters.com. I sure hope you had a great week. I really appreciate your making Armed Lutheran Radio a part of your day today, wherever you're going, whatever you're doing. I'm so glad that you're taking Armed Lutheran Radio along for the ride. We've got a fun show for you today. I mentioned last week that Sergeant Bill and Mrs. Sergeant Bill and Sam Williams and I finished our season at the Fall Brawl IDPA Championship. And after the match, Bill and Kat and I sat down. We broke out the recording equipment, sat down on the tailgate of Bill's truck, and listened as all the range crew finished cleaning up everything, and recorded a little bit of a show, just sort of discussing our thoughts about the match, Kat's lucky socks, and we had a few laughs, and even had a special guest appearance from match director Mike Plato, who basically came over and nicely told us to get the hell out because he was tired and he wanted to go home. So we've got some of that audio for you today. And then we're going to be visiting with another member of the Self-Defense Radio Network, Ben Branam, host of the Modern Self-Protection podcast. He'll be joining me to talk about his life with guns, his show, and the classes that he teaches. So that is coming up at the end of the show today. I'm really psyched. We're just 7 weeks away from episode 100, which should fall the Sunday before Christmas Eve on December 17th. So if you've got suggestions for things that you'd like to hear on that show, a special guest or a topic you'd like us to discuss, or something you'd like to hear us do, share that information with us. Visit the feedback page at armedlutheran.us/feedback and leave us a voice message or a voicemail at 888-571-5552, or you can send us an email. We'd love to hear from you and hear your ideas. Oh, and by the way, we have patches. I got confirmation that the Armed Lutheran embroidered patches will be here this week. So orders will be shipping soon for those of you who have pre-ordered. For those of you who have not, visit the Armed Lutheran shop. Check out all the swag. All of the in-stock Armed Lutheran swag is on sale through Reformation Day on Tuesday, so order fast. And happy Reformation Day, by the way. That reminds me, today is Reformation Sunday, and Tuesday is the 500th anniversary of the start of the Reformation, the day that legend holds that Martin Luther nailed the 95 Theses to the door of the Wittenberg Castle Church. Those 95 points were intended to spark discussion and debate within the church about various abuses. The idea was not to create a division in the church, but to reform and correct the errors and bring the church in teaching and practice back to the truth of God's Word. Unfortunately, two things happened. Pope Leo and the cardinals kind of like the idea of having people pay the church for a free pass into heaven. It was a nice moneymaker, and when they expanded the idea later to include all of those who were already dead so that you could go out and, pay for your lecherous great-great-grandpappy so that he could be plucked from the fires of hell and relocated to the pearly gates, well, there was just no end to the cash that could be raked in by Rome. So, like today's big bloated government agencies that balk at the idea of cutting even a single penny from their budgets, Leo wasn't really interested in having his cash cow put out to pasture. So he demanded that Luther recant, and then he excommunicated him when he didn't. Well, what followed was an amazing story of steadfast faith. But what ultimately happened, the second thing that happened that I mentioned the first, the second thing was a wave of endless schisms that led to where we are today, with megachurches and celebrity pastors and their heretical prosperity gospels and hate-filled morons like the Westboro Baptists and churches devoted to liberal or feminist or gay or existentialist theologies. You're going to hear one of those next week. The traditions of hundreds of years thrown out the window in the Radical Reformation, and God's Word replaced with feelings and emotion, mysticism, the power and mystery of Holy Baptism and the Lord's Supper replaced with acts of obedience, the Bible's truths cherry-picked to fit modern mores. Well, how very different the world would be today had Pope Leo simply listened and been willing to discuss the errors of the Church, many of which still exist today and have led to some pretty awful scandals. What Martin Luther started back in 1517 reshaped the world. Luther hoped to return the Church to the Word of God in truth and purity. On this 500th anniversary of the Reformation, let us pray for the unity of all, that the Holy Spirit would keep His faithful people steadfast in God's grace and truth, protect and comfort them in all temptations, defend them against all enemies of God's Word, and bestow upon Christ's church militant His saving peace. Let's never forget that a mighty fortress is our God, that though they take our life, our goods, fame, child, and wife, they yet have nothing won. The kingdom ours remaineth. Happy Reformation Day to all of you. Now kick back and enjoy today's show. We begin with my conversations with Bill and Kat Silvia from the Fall Brawl IDPA Championship right after this. You're listening to Armed Lutheran Radio on the Self-Defense Radio Network.
The percentage of women who own guns is growing. American women are more knowledgeable and better equipped to defend themselves than ever before. So, why is it that every time I go to a gun shop, I feel like they're talking down to me? Like, hey little lady, let me show you what you need. It's like all they want to do is sell me a pink gun. If you're tired of feeling that too, visit Guns for Gals, a specialty firearms boutique designed to empower women with information about firearm safety and to equip them with the means to protect themselves. The owners go out of their way to find products specifically for women, and they actually listen and ask questions to help you find the right products to meet your needs. If they wouldn't own it themselves, they won't sell it. Guns for Gals is located at 2035 Central Circle, Suite 108 in McKinney, Texas. Open Monday 1 to 6 and Tuesday through Thursday 11 to 7. And on weekends, you can find them at a gun show near you. Or shop online at www.gunsforgals.com. Guns for Gals, more than just a gun shop. It's how gun shopping should be.
For the reloaders in the audience, have you ever ordered reloading supplies online? Well, if so, who do you call when you need help or if you need something special? Will they give you a price that includes hazmat and shipping? Will they promise to beat their competitors' prices, including shipping? And when you call, do you talk to a customer service rep or can you talk to the owner himself? Well, if you'd prefer a personal touch and great customer service, talk to my friend Jim Swindle at U.S. Reloading Supply. It's a family-owned business that focuses on helping shooters get all the components they need at the very best prices. They carry all the name brands. If you've got a special order or large quantities, ask them for a quote and they will help you find what you need at a great price. Use the promo code Lutheran2017 and save 10% off your order and get free shipping on orders over $50. Check them out online at usreloadingsupply.com or call them today, 941-451-7357. U.S. Reloading Supply. Tell them the Armed Lutheran sent you. So here we are, end of the IDPA season.
It's finally over.
Finally over. Yeah.
2017, the year of rain and IDPA.
We finished up at the Fall Brawl Regional Championship. The matches in Arkansas are always great. The people are fantastic. So what did you think about the match?
The non-threats got in the way.
Don't they always?
They always get in the way. And then that that quick clamshell.
That was the fastest clamshell I've ever seen in my life.
Their activators were like either at like super slow speed or like warp speed. There was no in between. That was kind of neat actually, but
yeah, you couldn't plan for it. The first one we saw up the hill early in the morning was like glacial speed, and then we came down here and it was super fast, and then you had the clamshell that was just like
you blink and it's gone.
Yeah.
Did I shoot it? I'm not shooting.
There were a lot of headshots in the non-threat on that clamshell.
Yeah.
Because it was by the time your brain registered, it's time to shoot, your finger would twitch, and it was already in the way.
Yeah, and that's the first one of those that I've seen where you had to drop something on the activator.
Yeah.
And with both hands on whatever it was you were holding, and then try to get to the gun and then shoot the thing before it disappeared.
I can tell you my shoulder was screaming holding that bag up. So much.
I'm just glad it wasn't any heavier than it was. I thought it was fun.
It was fun.
There wasn't a whole lot of stuff that I hate. I mean, I don't like shooting on the move. I don't like standards.
I don't like backing.
A lot of the stages had choices to where you could do this or do that, which is nice. Give you some options.
That last stage we shot, and the guy was like, okay, there's like 5 different ways you can shoot this.
There really was. It was like position 1, position 2, and then just end up over here somewhere and shoot all these guys.
Somehow get to the end.
I only shot 2 non-threats.
I only got 2 also. They were in the way, though.
I got one, too. I'm a member of the Lloyd Bailey non-threat execution squad.
I talked to a lot of people today who are now honorary members.
Yeah.
Because there were a lot of really tight non-threats today.
Yep. Our standard stage where you had to lean way to the left.
Yes, because you had shoot-throughs.
Fault sticks, fault lines or you'd shoot through and hit the non-threat. That was kind of neat. That's, the kind of thing that if you don't really think about what you're doing, you get penalized big time. So.
Yep.
They did a real good job. They didn't make the match really hard, but they didn't make it silly easy. All the Arkansas and CASA matches, the Central Arkansas Shooters Association, their matches are always good, and they always have
fantastic food.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, I think it was the first year that Mike didn't do a lunch break in the middle.
That was
which
the
is a
best
really good
part.
idea. Nobody got bogged down with food.
I didn't feel after that mid-match break, I didn't feel like I wanted to nap.
Yep, we did about 6 stages, and then we had a snack and a drink, and we kept shooting. And then we got done and we had lunch at 1:30, 2 o'clock. Mm-hmm. And then we had awards, and here we are. It's 5 o'clock, and
normally we're getting done by now.
Besides the staff, we're the only ones here.
Right. At Lone Star, we were still waiting for awards, and Texas, we were still waiting for awards, and yeah, I think this was really well done. No idea what they're shooting at this point.
Reload.
I'm trying to do a radio show.
I know, people. They have any common sense?
What is wrong with these folks?
If they only knew.
Yes, it's Arkansas.
Yep.
At least it's not Oklahoma.
Oh.
You know why it's windy in Texas?
Oklahoma sucks.
So we had a good day here today. I was 4th SSP marksman. Sam was first place CDP sharpshooter.
Way to go, Sammy.
Yeah. Arnold
was first place.
CDP expert.
Yep. And you were high military veteran.
Yep.
I was 6th place.
You were 6th
SSP
place.
marksman.
You really shot well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Those non-threats wouldn't have gotten my way.
And, like I said earlier, you usually place in the bottom quarter of marksman SSP shooters, and you bumped up to the, almost top quarter. That's big. That's a big improvement for no practice, no dry fire.
It's amazing what you can do when you don't practice.
I know.
Yeah.
I did take her to the range a couple times, and we worked on a few things, and it made a big difference.
Now when the buzzer goes off in my brain, it goes, gone!
Yeah, that's actually a funny story. So we were at the range, and we were running a drill. We were probably 5 yards from the target, and it was a draw, 2 on one, 2 on another. Her draws were right around 1.7 to 2 seconds to first shot. And I said, hey, Kat, pretend those cardboard targets have guns. Shooter ready, stand by, beep. And she pulled off a 1-2 draw to first shot. Nice. And then I did it again and again and again. And she was consistently right around 1.5. And I was like, wait a minute. you're pretending it has guns. These cardboard targets have guns, and now suddenly you're shooting just as accurate but faster. I was like, you need to do that all the time.
And you have a new toy.
My X5.
Tell
Ooh.
us about that. That is a beautiful gun.
I love that. It's a flat trigger.
Ooh.
It's what
6 hour 320 X5, their competition model.
Very nice. I haven't done anything to it. Neither has Bill.
It's straight up competition gun, straight from the factory. I mean, it's got fiber optic front sight from Dawson, adjustable rear sights from Dawson. It's like 5-inch barrel, kind of a bull barrel. They redesigned the polymer frame, grip frame. It's got a higher grip, beaver tail. It's got a flat-faced 4-pound trigger as opposed to the 7-pound, 320 trigger.
And the 320, I hate to use the word platform, but the 320 family is the gun that you carry at work, the gun that you carry for concealed carry?
She did.
I don't carry it at work anymore.
Oh.
They outlawed it.
Yeah, that whole viral,
it may go off.
that whole viral thing that went about the 320s getting dropped, that started with the police department that will be unnamed.
Gotcha.
Fort Worth.
Yes.
Or somewhere near there.
Somewhere in that vicinity.
But I'm a SIG person. It's one of the best guns that I've shot coming from SIG, so...
And that X5, I joke with people all the time that if you took a Glock 34, which a lot of people shoot in IDPA and USPSA, and said, how can I make this the best that I can make it? Well, that's what SIG did. They even put a grip weight in the back of the grip, so the gun's not really muzzle heavy like Glocks are.
Right.
It's kind of got its own beveled mag well, so mag changes are just silly easy. Ambi slide release. I mean, that gun is fantastic. I mean,
And he's a Glock person.
Yeah, not really.
And he's
Glock.
raving about
until
the SIG.
today. Somebody was shooting a metal gun today.
Yes. Yes, you were.
I was. I decided after shooting nationals, watching all these, big name shooters and the Wilson Combat teams, and basically the top 30 shooters, because I got 36th overall. Mm-hmm. And I was looking at it the week after, and I realized all these guys are shooting these heavy 40-ounce guns, single action 1911s, 2011s. And I said, hey, I've got an STI Sentry. It's a single stack 9mm 1911 full-size gun. Yep. I'm going to get it fixed because it kind of blew up last year. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to shoot it. And today was the first time I'd ever shot it in a match. I've only taken it to the range since I got it back from the gunsmith once. And it was fantastic. I loved it. It's amazing how much easier your follow-up shots are, how more steady the gun is when you draw it and when you punch out on target.
Yep.
That heavier gun just is very, very stable.
Yeah, I'm thinking about going back to a metal gun next year.
I'm keeping my plastic.
Well, you've got really nice plastic.
I do.
And so what do you think about this year's rule book after having shot a whole season of the matches?
I was critical. We were all critical.
We were all very critical.
When that's in that show we did last year.
Yep.
But I like it.
I do too.
I think
it's a lot more USPSA-ish.
Yeah.
But you don't get the complaints that, well, so-and-so master shooter didn't get called for that, and, the subjectivity was gone. So,
yeah.
The really fast master-level shooters, the Wilson Combat guys, or the Rob Lathams, or the Shane Coleys, or BJ Norrises, whoever, they get judged the same way we do. Your foot either touches over the fault line or it doesn't.
Yep.
It's pretty simple. It's pretty easy.
I like it.
The SOs are pretty much left out of it unless it's calling something that you did that you really did, not making a judgment call.
And the thing that we hated the most, the 1 second down, I don't have a problem with now. After having shot it a year, I'm good with it.
I'm still not a big fan of it.
I'm not crazy about it, but it makes scoring easier.
It does make scoring easier.
And it does make you
aware
focus.
Of your shots.
Yes. You now you can't outrun your bad shooting like you could before. Like, I can't just throw shots all over the place and then make up for it by running really fast.
Yeah.
I have to focus on good shots now. You know how we listen to Steve Anderson? Steve hates that talk about slow down, get your hits.
Yeah.
You have to, and
Yeah, you have to. I mean, let's be honest. This whole year, all I've been working on is accuracy. Shooting this heavy metal gun today, the biggest difference was the accuracy. Except for a couple stages where I kind of messed up and had some high points, most everything was 3 or 4 points down. The last few matches I've shot, I'm averaging about 3 to 4 points down per stage. And that's because you have to. If you want to compete in pretty much any division you want. You know, for me, the 1 second down, it doesn't punish the top 10 or 15% of shooters. It punishes everybody else who's, you know, mid-level sharpshooter on down. So you're basically, I mean, the best way I can put it is, I remember reading in the Tactical Journal an article that Gordon Carroll wrote talking about stage planning and this and that.
Right.
And one of the things he said was, at the end of your stage, if you have a position where you have 4 or 5 targets that you have to shoot at the last position, when you get done shooting, stop, look at all your targets and see your hits to see if you need to make something up because you have 5 seconds.
You've got 5 seconds.
To me, that's not defensive pistol shooting. That's a bullseye game that, I mean, like I said last year, I still agree with this, that if you want to improve accuracy in the sport, you make the down zeros smaller. And they did that in the head. They didn't do it in the chest.
Make the non-threats cost more.
Yeah.
God help me for saying this. Allow them to put a higher ratio of non-threats to threats.
I agree. It'd be great. That's realistic.
But it's realistic.
You want, you know, defensive scenario-based shooting. You're going to
Right.
have a lot more non-threats than threats.
Take some of the subjective crap out of it where you have to do this and you have to let people shoot it the way they would normally shoot it in a defensive scenario. Some people are going to stand flat-footed. Some people are going to shoot because what you end up with is that IDPA turtle.
Yeah.
Right?
That little baby SWAT walk.
The baby SWAT walk. I love that. That everybody tends to do.
Yep.
Unless you're really good shooter.
Especially if it's a backing stage.
I'm doing that half-step thing.
Yep. Every step is about 3 inches back. That's about it. Yeah.
Yep. And that's not defensive. That's not realistic. In real life, you're going to be either you're going to square up on whoever it is you're shooting at, or you are going to be moving, getting off the X, and shooting as fast as you can.
And you're going to run to a position, and you're going to stop and then shoot, and then run to somewhere else and then stop and shoot.
Right.
Yep.
There are other things that they could do to force you to be more accurate.
Yep. I think so too.
Plans for next year.
Wear these socks again.
Those socks are the bomb.
Yes. Our daughter picked these out. She has the pink and brown Argyle with the horses, and I got the brown and pink with the pink horses.
Nice.
Now, they were quarter horses before I put them on. Now they're Clydesdales. But I like little green horseshoes. I think that helped.
Yes.
So the green striped Wicked Witch of the...
Definitely good luck.
Yes. I'll have to tell Shelby what the socks were.
So next year, you're going to shoot more 1911, I guess?
Yeah, I'm going to shoot my 9mm 1911 in ESP and IDPA. I'll probably shoot my Glock 34 in USPSA. I'd like to shoot a little more USPSA next year, just for something different.
Right.
You know, I'm not giving up one or the other. I'm just, you know, want to shoot some different stuff, different challenges, I guess.
What are you thinking about shooting next year, match-wise? Where do you want to go next year? Is there anywhere you want to go and shoot that you haven't shot before?
You know, I kind of, like Mandy said last year, I'd like to kind of stretch my wings out and get a little further out, try some different matches.
Maybe actually is going to be Alabama.
Yeah, I want to go to Alabama. Maybe actually get on a plane.
Ooh.
Check a gun into your luggage, you know, something like that. You know, we kind of joke that these are our little mini vacations. It'd be nice to go somewhere we haven't been. I mean, we've been to Arkansas a bunch of times, and it's great. We love it. But it'd be kind of neat to go somewhere else.
You know, if we do farther out-of-state clubs, we're going to have to bribe my parents better.
Yeah. More grandkids?
No.
Well, it's been fun.
I even made sound effects today. I made sound effects today.
You did make sound effects today.
And it wasn't cussing.
Yeah.
No.
That's a change.
That is a change. She went through the shoot house and then sounded like Curly Moe from
Three Stooges.
from the
was
Three
that you were doing?
Stooges.
Yeah. Woo, 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 woo. Don't ask me where it came from. It just popped right out.
What was it prompted you to?
So I went through the door after I shot my 2 targets, and then I went off to the left, and then I tried going back to the middle. It's like, oh, wait. I got to go back to the other side.
Oh, man.
That was probably the best part of that stage. Well, that's like at Nationals, my gun jammed. I said, hold on. Wait.
That was funny. You missed that one, Lloyd. She's doing a stage where you're holding a briefcase in your offhand, and you're supposed to shoot from retention, 2 to the body, 1 to the head. And she goes like 2 to the body and jams. And she goes, hold on. And the SO looks back at us like, what the hell am I supposed to do? And she puts the briefcase between her knees and clears the jam, grabs it again, continues shooting. He's just looking at everybody like,
what just happened?
did she just tell me to hold on? It was funny.
It's fantastic.
I don't think you'd ever heard that one before.
So my sailor mouth has just turned to just strange antics on the range now.
Yep. You're evolving.
I'm evolving. I'm just getting goofier.
I hate that we weren't able to get Scott to stick around because our friend Scott Longhorn, who was on our roundtable shows last year,
driving home.
So Scott shows up dressed as Spider-Man.
Yes. Phil
With
Spider-Man.
the mask and everything, with
Yep.
the little puffy, muscular
Chest
and arms, and shot the whole match that way, with the exception of a couple of stages where he revealed his true identity.
Because he was fogging up his safety glasses.
That's when he became Scott Spider-Man.
Yes. So the whole day was nothing but jokes about Spider-Man and Spider-Pig and
Yeah.
his web shooters.
I still have
and
the Spider-Man and Spider-Pig song stuck in my head. Spider-Pig, Spider-Pig, does whatever a Spider-Pig does.
Oh, on the shoot house, I did Sergeant Bill. Sergeant Bill does whatever Sergeant Bill wants to do.
I can't wait to watch that video.
And his videos have probably got us singing in the background.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. It was funny that how many people came up to us and they were like, why
What's
is
wrong
he
with
in
him?
It was like, it's almost Halloween.
Right. Why is he
But
doing that?
Why is he still wearing that? Because he wants to. He's having fun. Why not?
It's like the 21st. Halloween's in 10 days.
I think it was
Why
great.
not?
I think
It
it was
was
great.
hilarious.
Fantastic.
They wouldn't complain
I'll wear
if I was in Wonder Woman costume.
Yeah. I want to wear a Punisher outfit out here and see what happens.
We got to meet some fans of the show. We had a guy came up. He won first place in my division.
He did, yeah.
And he came up and introduced himself. And
No more tips for you.
no more tips.
You know who I'm talking to.
Daryl Hicks,
Yep.
first place.
That was it.
SSP marksman. Really nice guy. He came up and introduced himself and thanked us for the show and said he enjoyed it. And then David Jackson, another fan of the show, he was first place in his division. Or
Is he related to Peter Jackson?
No, I don't think he does any of the Lord of the Ring movies. Although he has
That's like Gene Simmons one, not
Gene
the same
Simmons.
Gene Simmons.
No.
I senior again.
yes,
Fastest old guy. He's actually really good. No, he actually
He
is
is
really
good.
good.
yeah, and he's awesome on bass.
Here comes our match director, Mike Plato. Say hi, Mike.
Hey, everybody.
Thank you for a great match today. This was a great way for us to finish the year, and we're just sort of wrapping things up and talking about how much fun we had, and this was a great match.
Thank you very much, Lloyd, and great to have you guys out here as always. I love you guys. Thank you, folks, for very much all your hard work and being a sponsor for my match. Thank you. More than welcome to come anytime.
Glad to do it.
I think this is his way of walking over and saying, hey, you're the last ones here, and we're about to lock the gate, so wrap
Get
it
the
up.
F out.
We're out.
Well, thanks, Mike. I appreciate it.
You're
You put
welcome.
on 2 great matches every year, and we're looking forward to coming back next year.
Now, the next match will be April 21st of 2018, called the Razorback Shootout 2018. More than welcome to come. Enjoy the match. It's already approved as on the webpage.
Is that the same
Nice.
same way as this one was, where you eat a snack in the middle and dinner at the
That
end?
was a great
That was
idea.
fantastic.
Good
That was
idea.
fantastic.
Yes.
I love that.
I didn't think it was going to work. Actually, I got proven wrong.
Whenever you eat a big meal like we have in Arkansas at any of the matches, the second half of the day is like, I'm just ready to take a
Because
nap.
y'all always have such good food that we're
food
like,
is
I want to
awesome.
eat.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest thing we had. Everybody wanted the food and enjoyed our food we had.
Yeah.
So, thank you again for coming to Lloyd, Kate, Bill, and Armed Lutheran. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for having us, and we'll look forward to seeing you next year.
Hey, you were asking how we wrap it up? That's how we do
That's
it.
how we wrap it up. Having a good holster is absolutely critical if you're going to carry a firearm for self-defense. If you need a quality holster, let me recommend Cook's Holsters. I've found Cook's Holsters when I bought an IWB holster to write a review. And I liked that holster from Cook's Holsters so much that I applied to become an official Cook's Holsters dealer. Cook's Holsters are American-made, custom-molded to fit your firearm. The advantage of Kydex is that it holds its shape. It doesn't lose retention. It won't wear on the finish of your firearm the way leather will. They're available for hundreds of gun models, dozens of color combinations and different printed patterns. They're great for concealed carry, for range work. They come with a lifetime warranty against defects and a 100% satisfaction guarantee. Check them out today, www.cooksholsters.com. Use the promo code ARMEDPODCAST to save 10% off of your order, and make sure you've got a quality holster. Go to cooksholsters.com today. Welcome back. As you know, Armed Lutheran Radio is a member of the Self-Defense Radio Network. It's a group of awesome podcasts related to self-defense, gun rights, politics, prepping. Another of the shows in the network is the Modern Self-Protection Podcast. They're dedicated to keeping you safe in today's modern world. Ben Branam is the host of the Modern Self-Protection Podcast, and he joins us tonight. Ben, welcome to the show.
Well, thanks for having me. I've been listening to your show for a little while. I got it from Bob Main, and I got to say, you guys do a great show. I love listening to you.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. It's great to have you on. Finally, we finally met face to face at AmCon, the Second Amendment Mass Media Workshop that we put on the day before the Gun Rights Policy Conference here in Dallas a few weeks ago. Was that your first? Was that your first GRPC?
Yep, that was my first one. It was kind of fun and kind of interesting.
What did you think? What was what overall impression of?
I'm trying to look at the good, but well, here's the whole truth. We're super good at the gun rights stuff. We're not so good at the speaking part all the time, which is funny because we all think we're a bunch of podcasters and stuff. But these guys that get up that are lawyers and these Second Amendment guys that work in the Capitol, they're not the greatest public speakers. So you're waiting all day for that kind of thing. It was a little bit, but I got to meet like everybody in the world. So it was just like everybody in that industry and our firearms world that's the top of the people. I got to meet you in person. I got to meet a ton of people that I hear on the radio. I got to meet Tom Gresham, big names. John Lott was there. I got to talk to him for a couple minutes, and all these other people that I didn't even know that I should have known. And I heard him speak, and I'm like, wow, that was interesting. Tell me more about that. And I got to talk to tons and tons of people, and that's where it really was, is all the relationships that I got to meet all of these people, and that's what really made it awesome. The speakers were kind of there to fill time between the relationship building almost.
Right. Yeah, my reaction was kind of like the kid that goes to his first Major League Baseball game. You see all the big names, the players that you've idolized, all these guys that you've read and you've listened to their shows or seen them on podcasts or interviews or on television, and you're just sort of like starstruck. But yeah, the speakers had their moments, but the best part of it was what was happening outside the convention hall in the reception area outside, just sort of milling around and talking to people and meeting people. It was that was the best part.
So I had a good time overall, though. So if anybody's out there that wants to go, you should go just to meet everybody.
Definitely, it was a great time, and I really enjoyed hanging out with you and Bob Main from the Handgun World podcast. Just it was a delight to finally get to meet you two and to spend some time with you. All right, let's talk about you. You, correct me if I'm wrong, you're a Texas native, right? You grew up in South Texas area?
Yes. I live in South Texas. I grew up in California, in Orange County,
goodness.
south of L.A.
Okay.
So, and I actually, I was second generation gangland almost. My grandmother lived in the gang-infested area. My father lived there. And then I was going to be the third generation growing up there until Dad came home from work one night and they had all the streets blocked off, and the cops said, okay, you live there, we'll escort you home. And they had a patrol car in front of him, a patrol car behind him, and they said, oh yeah, this guy's going to get in the car with you. And he had a shotgun when he got in the car with him and riot gear on. And Dad said, that's
Texas
it
was.
Well, we just moved to another part of California, actually, so I was raised out there still. I moved on my own to Texas. I was tired of California. Mm-hmm. Too much violence, too many people, too many rude people.
Yeah.
I like fun people. And California's just too much bustle, too much hustle, too many people. I don't know what it was, just a bad vibe. Came out to Texas, and me and my wife love it out here. I love being a Texan now, and South Texas, it's just fun.
Yep.
People are so laid back and helpful.
Yep.
That's why I moved.
So did you grow up around, I'm guessing California, Orange, did you grow up around guns at all?
Not a lot. No, not really, but it became my favorite hobby pretty quickly. When I was 12 or 14, my dad took me out and started shooting. He had two 22s, a little rifle and a Ruger single 6. And so I learned how to shoot on this single shot, and it's a Marlin. It was bought at Montgomery Ward's. And it's kind of cool. My dad bought it when he was a kid, and he learned how to shoot on it. And then he taught me how to shoot on it, and now it's in my gun cabinet, and my kid is going to learn how to shoot on it. So it's cool to hand down that stuff. But yeah, we had to drive a long ways when I was a kid in California to the place called Lytle Creek. We called it Suicide Creek because it was this state-owned land that you just stopped, pulled up, and shot into the hillside. And it was, all the crazies. We'd go in early. The gangbangers would be there in the afternoon. It was quite the adventure. And we're probably lucky that nobody got killed on all our adventures because it was an adventure. And then everybody was like us. You'd bring everything you had with all the ammo you had because you're just going to stay all day because it's a 2-hour drive from where you live. So people drive up with a pickup truck, and I say full of guns. They pull out 50 guns and thousands of rounds of ammunition and just set it on the back of the tailgate and start shooting at rocks. So yeah, it was an adventure. My dad was pretty smart on that stuff, even though he wasn't the best gun guy. He just went, yep, it's time to leave. He still had the sense from growing up in the hood. He's like, yep, we're out of here.
This crowd's a little too rowdy. So you went off to college in '96 to get a justice degree, right? And then 9/11 happens?
Yeah, and I stumbled along the way and joined the Marine Corps. I wanted to be a police officer, so I joined the Marine Corps to be a police officer. Found out I don't like cops as a whole, which sounds bad. Cops as individuals, right. I love them. It's the best job in the world, but the industry, I'm like, ugh. So I ended up not being a cop. But yeah, 9/11 happened, and I was a Marine. And it was, we all have our funny story of where we were, but my story is that the wife, who was my girlfriend at the time, who didn't understand what I really did in the Marines, and I was a reserve at the time, so I'm going home to pack my stuff, and she found out from a friend of a friend that he's going to get deployed. You better go see him. And she's like, where should I meet? Well, meet me at my apartment. And so I start pulling out gear, and she's like, what's that for? Well, that's my 45. That's ammo for it. That's my machete. That's my desert gear. That's my tropical gear. And I'm stuffing my sea bag, loading all this stuff. And she's like, what, where are you going? And I'm just kind of like, well, I hope they're going to send me to kill whoever did this. It was the same day. We didn't know. And she's like, all of a sudden it dawned on her what I kind of did on the side for a living. So that was interesting. But she stuck with me, and we ended up getting married and all that stuff. But it was, it was her jaw drop moment. I was like, yeah, sorry. I mean, I was in the Marine Infantry. That's what I did. So it was a fun time. I spent 10 years in the reserves, a couple years on active duty, including a year as an anti-terrorism unit in Southern California, which gave me lots of great training, lots of good stuff. I don't know how much, sounds stupid, but I don't know how much of it I can talk about still. It was classified back then, and now it's...
Let's not take any chances.
I have no idea. So yeah, that's about as much as I say normally, but I got some great training out of it. And then in 2003, we were part of the invasion of Iraq, the original invasion.
Ooh. And
my unit was, hey, diddle diddle, straight up the middle. Yeah. So all the way, 21 days to Baghdad. We fought all the way there, and in Baghdad, we fought a couple, and then we went up to Tikrit and fought a little bit, and then we had to wait around for about a month till we could get out of there. You did your job. Great. Now just sit there for a while and wait. Yeah, normal Marine Corps. Just hang out for a while.
Right.
Yeah, that was interesting hangout time, talking to people and stuff. So came back from the war and got to met my first crazy liberal in California. He was a teacher, and I was in uniform, just back. Nobody had been back but our unit. There was only like 3 units that had come back from the war yet. Mm-hmm. And he's like, don't you know that it's bad for us to be over there? And I was like, what are you talking about? And he started telling me how all the Iraqis don't want us, how they hated us, and all this other stuff. And I was like, dude, that's not what I found. And he goes, well, don't you watch CNN? And I was like, really? I was too busy doing it to sit down and watch CNN. Do you realize that the CNN reporter was reporting on what I was doing, right? I was busy at the time. Sorry I didn't watch CNN. So, yeah, he was off his rocker crazy. And, yeah, I know now looking back, you're like, oh, yeah, the Iraqis hated us. They didn't hate us at the time. When we came in there, we were a liberating force. Mm-hmm. And they loved us. They were kissing us. That I was I was being handed babies all over the place. Like my luck would run off on these kids. I mean, they'd run up and hand me a 1-year-old baby. I'm like, what am I supposed to do with this? You know, here, I'll bless the kid and hand it back. Right. You probably don't want my blessing, but I'm going to give it to you anyways. Right. One of those. But it was a crazy time. But at the time, it was a good thing that we were there at the time. Unfortunately, like most things, over time, the U.S. could screw up a wet. Yes. I was going to say, I'm trying to say they can't fight themselves out of a wet paper bag in the long run, or they'll screw up a free lunch.
Yep, exactly.
I try to roll those together, and I can't say them right. But yeah, they'll mess up anything. And that's what we did over time. We messed it all up. So you get back, you go back to school, you finish. What came first for you, the teaching, becoming a firearms instructor, or podcasting? How did that whole part of your life develop? Well, I wanted to start a company, and I kind of figured out modern self-protection after I went back to Iraq and was a contractor over there. And as a security contractor, did a couple years over there. That was a lot of fun. Learned a lot more stuff. Had a lot more, made a lot more money. Did the same thing I did in the Marine Corps. Made 4 or 5 times the amount of money with better gear, better equipment, better living standards, everything. So that was kind of interesting. But originally I wanted to start the company to help people like my wife. I knew all these door kickers and like some of the best, a bunch of Marines, Marine Recon. I knew some SEALs, Delta guys, all those guys. I know all these guys, and they're all, the best of the best of the door kicking world. And most of their wives were like my wife that just didn't, they're like, right. My husband will protect me. And I was like, well, how can I put it easy? And I used all the background from the anti-terrorism stuff and trying to put together easy stuff that you could listen to on, hey, vary your routes home. Be aware of your surroundings. Stupid little things that I thought I could get them to do at least. And then I kind of ended up meeting Bob Main through just happenstance. I was listening to his podcast and he said, shoot me an email if you've been in a gunfight. I was like, okay. And then it was like, hey, let's go shooting. Awesome. So I'm like, hey, let's go. So we ended up at an IDPA competition. I was on his podcast, and then I became a recurring guest on his podcast. And then he goes, hey, you want to teach a class? And I was like, yeah, that would be fun to teach a firearms class. And he goes, okay, I got it set up next month. Mm-hmm. He's a very, very point, shoot, aim guy. And I was like, what are we going to teach? And he goes, I don't know. I thought you could get a curriculum together. And I was like, aha, I am a certified civilian firearms instructor right now. As of this moment, right? As of this moment. Yeah, and it wasn't like I hadn't taught. Overseas, I was in charge of training 250 guys. I had been doing training things over there. I built curriculums before. It wasn't like I hadn't done it. It was just on the civilian side, that would have been my first class. And I think that was 2011 or 2010. It was June 1st. It was hotter than all get out on the range. God. My shoe melted. I duct taped my boot back together because it melted off. I was like, this sucks. But everybody had a great time and said we should do it again. Right. So we did, and we did, and we did, and we did. So we started coming up with courses and stuff, and that's kind of how. Talk about some of these classes. What kinds of things are you teaching? I try to do everything towards the civilian world, which isn't the funnest thing at the time. Some people want the adventure courses, but Bob and I came up with the name. I don't know if he did or I did. I think he was probably him. He's smarter at that than I am. But Beyond Concealed Carry, of going beyond your concealed carry class and learning the next step. So we kind of crammed as much as we could into this one course, and then we made it enhanced, which just means it added a second day. And we taught it dozens of times, and it really just kind of refined itself. And it got to this point where we could teach these awesome stuff. And this is going to be me bragging a little bit, but by the end of the first day, you're running up and down the range, shooting on the move and making hits. Mm-hmm. Most classes, that's class 3 or 4, or right. At least 2, and that's 2-day courses. So that's at least their level 2, and it's the end of the level 2 course. And I'm like, no, it's just a parlor trick. Right. I'll show you how to do it. It's really not that hard. And once we figured out how to break it down and teach it step by step, it's a parlor trick. And people are like, really? I'm like, yeah, look, try it again. Oh, you missed a couple. Try it again. Oh, there you go. Right. Do it again. Oh, there you go. Okay, this time run faster. You look like you're and this is you'll appreciate this one. It looks like you're moving at IDPA movement pace. No, I want you to move across the range like somebody's trying to shoot you.
Yeah, Aaron Israel is trying to break us of those sorts of habits. When I took his class, he was, no, you've got to stop doing that. That's IDPA right there.
Yeah, the IDPA turtle is what we started calling it because it was just, as long as you're showing forward motion, you're legally moving for IDPA. And then we know that if you stop, you can make better hits. And so the course really evolved around making quick hits, not getting hit, and then, weird stuff. Like, I don't care. Like, people are like, what? Make a hit. I don't care. A hit on the bad guy is good for you and bad for him. Well, doesn't it need to be an A-zone, upper thoracic chest hit and blah, blah, blah? And I'm like, I don't care. Hit him.
Right.
Hit the bad guy. And if he doesn't go down after you shoot him 3 to 5 times, that's my thing, a 3 to 5 round burst to the chest. If he doesn't go down, then take a headshot. At these close distances, you don't have time to screw around. You're going to take that 3 to 5 round burst, and if he goes down or he gives up or he throws his gun down and says, don't shoot me no more, and cries and whines, we're all good with that. If he turns and runs, I'm good with that too. Whatever. I just need him to stop trying to kill me. And so I'm way out there on that scale, and people are just like, what, but. And I'm like, well, you want to talk about the science on how long an actual hit takes to stop somebody? But I teach my thought process on winning a fight. If I was going to fight, here's how I would do it. And then here's the stuff that will make you be able to do this so you can win a fight. So I'm kind of proud of that curriculum.
What was the thought process that said, hey, this would be cool if Ben and I went out to the range and taught a class?
It was, hey, this would be cool. I think that was whole Bob's thought process. Bob is actually an instructor. He's a salesperson by trade. And he's put together curriculum, and he's taught classes, but he's never taught firearms classes. And at the time, he'd been studying firearms for maybe 3 or 4 years, so he was pretty new in the game still. And he was like, I don't know how to put together a curriculum. Can you do that? And I was like, sure, why not? And so, that's where it just became, let's do this. It'll be fun. And Bob had to host at other courses for other instructors too, so he kind of liked the idea of getting a free class along with it. And then... he started teaching a little bit, I started teaching a little bit, and it really became awesome to have both of us out on the range because you got 2 different looks at things. I was the ultra aggressive former Marine that will get in your face and do the gunfight and still win. And he's, a middle-aged father and husband that was like, maybe I'm going to look at this a little differently.
The practical, tactical guy. Yeah.
A little bit more practical. I was a little bit more tactical. So... We had this great thing where we could teach, and we'd teach different ways and different things, and then team teaching is the way to go. It's the awesomest thing when I have a student that's struggling, and both of us know the curriculum real well. So I'm teaching the thing and that little module, and I'm like, Bob, Mike down there on the end's having a problem. Go help him real quick, straighten him out so he keeps up, and then I don't have to stop the whole class and. We do a little bit. So that was, it became this awesome thing that really, when I taught without him and he taught without me, it got kind of hard, but together it really was a great thing. And unfortunately, Bob is going to lay off teaching a little bit. I'm losing my buddy this next year.
So, all right. So a few fun questions before we talk about the podcast. You talked about the first guns that the guns that you learned on. What was the first gun that you purchased yourself? Your first gun?
I actually went in the store and did the paperwork for was a Para Ordnance 1911. It was in probably 99, 98, and they just came out with the P14 Limited. Beautiful gun.
Yep.
And they were making them themselves up in Canada.
Yep.
And I still have that gun. It's awesome, but I was a 1911 guy for almost a decade, and it's probably had over $1,000 worth of work done to it. I was like, I want this fixed, and I want that, and I want this, but I've had it so long the tritium vial in the front sight has burned out. It doesn't glow at all.
Right.
But it's a beautiful gun. I've had 4 or 5 of them since and sold them all off, but I've kept that original one.
What's your carry gun?
Right now it's an M&P 9mm full size.
Oh.
Or or I should say, Ruger little 38 special, their LCR, that plastic revolver. You say, what's my carry gun? I'm like, well, the Smith & Wesson's in the bag over there, and my Ruger's in my pocket. So it's always and or around
right.
here.
There's never just one. All right, last fun question. I asked this one of Rick Ector when I had him on the show a few weeks ago. Based on just purely on sentimental value, if you had to get rid of every other gun in your safe, which one would you keep?
Oh, sentimental, I'd keep the original, the little 22 single shot Montgomery Wards made by Marlin. I think it's worth about $50. I'd keep that one. It's got a scope on it. It's still zeroed. I mean, it's the original scope that my dad bought in 1960 something, and it's still on there. It still works. The clicks aren't perfect anymore, but yeah, that's my sentimental gun right there. It's the one that my dad's passing down, and I traded him an M1 carbine so I could get this gun. I wanted it so much. He wanted an M1 carbine. I had one in my safe. I was like, Dad, that M1 carbine is probably worth about $900, and that Marlin's worth about $90. But I want it that bad. I'll trade you. Yeah, and
very cool.
We swapped. It wasn't a big deal. I didn't care. But that's the one. I'm going to hand it down to my kid, and I hope that when he has a kid, he'll start shooting it with him and hand it down to him. And I've got my dad on a podcast I did. Actually, I recorded it for me to put it up everywhere, so I'd have it of him explaining, when he got the gun, how he got it, how his mom bought it, what he did with it as a kid. I mean, he took this gun without a case and he bungee corded it to the center post of his bicycle and would ride down the street to the law enforcement, the police range, and just unbungee cord it and walk in, shoot, and then bungee cord it back and ride home, and nobody ever said anything. Can you imagine that anywhere in America right now?
Nowhere in America would that be.
And not even a case on it, just a bungee cord. So I've got him on video with, explaining some of those stories, And so that's my gun.
All right, let's talk about the podcast. Where did you get the idea? I'm going to assume that it has something to do with Bob Mayne. Where did you get the idea to do a podcast?
Bob Mayne. I give it everything to Bob. Before that, I was doing just blog posts. I'm not a very good writer. I've since got an editor, so if you read my stuff, it's because I have a good editor, not because I'm a good writer. And it's just I was doing seminars and stuff on self-defense before that, and then I kept getting on Bob's podcast, and people were like, "Hey, why don't you do your own podcast?" When you have customers saying, "Why don't you do this?" Mm-hmm. It was kind of a, the face slap thing.
Right.
And by then I was already recording stuff for Bob's shows. So I was like, this is easy.
Right.
Why not? And then, I bought a headset, tried that for a while, did some stuff, and then bought a nice microphone and some headphones. And I've been doing the same thing ever since. Semi kind of almost weekly. I'm working on my consistency. I'm a horribly inconsistent person for my podcast. Any of you listeners out there, I'm sorry. It's the one thing I really suck at.
Consistently inconsistent.
That's it. Yeah, that's about it.
So you were doing a segment for Bob regularly before that, and now you've expanded it out to an entire program.
Yeah, I actually started doing a midweek thing for him, and I'd pull a gun out of my safe and go, okay, let's talk about this 44 Magnum Desert Eagle, and just talk about it. And then I'd tell the story behind it, and I used it at the armored car company and tell some funny stories around that. And then next week I'd pull something else out of my safe. I go, oh, here's my Ruger P89. And you guys know that this thing feels like a brick, looks like a brick. It weighs about as much as a brick. The trigger feels like two bricks rubbing together, but it's indestructible. Yeah. And so, I just pull a gun out of the safe and start talking about it, and people seem to enjoy it. So I had a lot of fun just pulling guns out of the safe, going, hey, check this thing out. I should probably just do that as a segment on the show again. Check out this new gun I started playing with.
There you go. Get back to your roots. So now you pick a topic each week, and you spend the whole show talking about this one topic, or do you sort of break it up like Bob does? Or for those who haven't heard your show, give them kind of a taste of what your show is about and how it runs and the format.
Well, I try to do one topic and go deep on it. I just recorded one today that will be up Probably before your show. Before you hear this, mine will be up. But I just went over a shooting that happened in Pennsylvania, and it was 2012. It became a Supreme Court case, and I got it through a case study, and I came back, and I was like, well, this bar fight turned into a shooting where somebody died, and the shooter went to prison for 15 years. Maybe we should talk about how screwed up this whole situation is. And so I go through this whole shooting from everybody's point of view. From one, if you were the shooter that you thought you were defending yourself and you went to prison, shame on you. And then from this other guy that tried to intervene and actually was trying to defend some girl's honor, he intervened, and he's the one that ended up dead. Ooh. So if we're gonna do that, maybe we should be better at it. You don't want to end up in prison, and you don't want to end up dead.
Right.
So I went through that whole story, and we talked about it from both perspectives and what you could do if you, including, don't be there. That's always a good thing. I always start with that. But then if you're going to go, and I get deep into the woods about the mindset that you have to have. If, this guy is, and the guy was threatening the girls, and at one time he threatened their life. Well, if you're going to step in, you need to go in all the way. You can't just
halfway. Go. Right.
Yeah, and that's what this guy did. He went halfway, hit the what turned out to be the gunman twice, and then backed up and said, "Hey, why don't you step outside?" And the gunman pulled his gun and shot him in the head.
Oh,
oops.
Yeah,
that's. So I try to get deep into that stuff. That's the one I did, and then other stuff, I'll just go back to the roots. And I've had people complain that I go back to the basics, but how do you tell if somebody's following you? What do you do if somebody's following you? If you think somebody's following you, vary your schedule. That's my next one I got up in the queue, is we're all creatures of habits, and your habits will either make or break you. And when it comes to your self-defense, your habits could get you killed or worse.
So we attended the AmCon media, what was it, the mass media or alternative mass media workshop the day before GRPC. What did you think about, what did you get out of that? What did you like about it?
Yeah, it was fun just to talk to everybody again. I guess I'm becoming old hand at this, since I've been technically podcasting since I think 2012 now was my first show. And so I've been doing it for a while, but it was nice to see all the new people coming in and that don't know things and that haven't tried things the hard way, like a cheap gamer headset. Yes, that'll work, but sooner or later it's going to break. They hurt to wear, and you sound like you're in a tin box, which it's okay, but for the same price, you can buy an actual real microphone and a stand. And, instead of paying $100 for the headset, you can pay $100 for a mic and a mic stand, and you're off to the races. I mean, I'm using a $75 microphone right now.
It sounds great.
It sounds fine. Yes, there's stuff that's better. And yes, I've had acoustic tiles up and all that stuff. I know all that stuff, but how far are you going to go to do that? But it was just nice to talk to those people. Some of them asked me questions, and then we got to talk to a bunch of other people, and it was fun to see what everybody else is doing in the world too. I can't keep up with everybody's shows. I mean, crap. Mark Walters, whatever his radio, I forget, Armed
American Radio.
Oh, okay. He's a great guy, and he was super smart. I loved his presentation.
Yes.
But he does an hour-long show 5 days a week, and then on Sunday, he does a 3-hour show.
Right.
There's no way I can listen to 8 hours of... Well, I just don't have 8 hours to listen to one person. There's so many other things out there.
Right.
So it was nice to see all these other people that I didn't even know had shows, and I was like, oh... And I put like 3 or 4 of them in my iPod right there just to listen to, because I was like, oh.
Yep.
And then talk to them about how they do their workflow and how work goes. And it was just meeting the people in the hallway again was the huge thing about it.
Yep. For those who have not listened to the show, how do they find Modern Self-Protection? Where can they go to find out more?
Well, you can go to modernselfprotection.com. That's my website. Real easy to find. Mm-hmm. Or you can look at Modern Self-Protection anywhere you find a podcast. I'm on all of them. Google Play, Stitcher, iTunes. I guess it's not iTunes anymore. It's Apple Podcast or something like that. I don't even know what they're calling themselves. But Apple's directory, how's that?
Yep.
Anywhere the podcast. I was even on the old school phone for a while. The Crackberry. I was on a Crackberry app for a while. I don't even think that exists anymore. But so anywhere you can find a podcast, just look at, if you Google Modern Self-Protection, you'll find me. and you'll find my show. You'll find my website. You can find any of my courses out there, and you can find. I also do the Shooters Club with Bob Main. It's kind of a paid website where you get to get more. It's online lessons. We do one video, one lesson of how to in the shooting world. I just can't tell you how to reload a magazine real well. I can't tell you how to enter a room. It's just not going to work. You're going to have to see it. It's kind of, so I put all that stuff on video, put it out there, and every time I learn something new or every time I come up with a new idea, put another video out there. So it's a pretty cool membership. It's well worth the price. You can go check that out too, but go check out the podcast. It's more fun and it's free.
Exactly. Very cool. Well, Ben Branam is the host of the Modern Self-Protection Podcast, another fine member of the Self-Defense Radio Network. Ben, keep up the good work. Christ's blessings, and thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you. Same to you. Love your show. Keep it up.
Thank you. And that's going to wrap it up for another episode of Armed Lutheran Radio. Thank you all for listening, downloading, and subscribing. If you like what you hear on today's show, visit the feedback page. Let us know. Send us a message, a voice message, or a voicemail. You can call 888-571-5552. Share the show with friends on social media. We would really appreciate that. If you enjoy the things that you hear every week, share it with friends, share it with family. We really would appreciate that. We really appreciate our contributors, Mia Anstine, who's on the road. We just didn't have time to get to a Ballistic Minute or to Fundamental Defense today from Aaron Israel. You'll hear from them next week. I want to thank Bill and Kat Silvia for taking time after the fall brawl, after a long day. And thank you to Ben Branam of the Modern Self-Protection Podcast for taking time to be on the show with us this week. If you like what you hear, be sure to check out the Reformation Gun Club. It's the membership side. It's an opportunity for you to get access to lots of exclusive content, all of the individual segments on the show, full-length interviews, full-length versions of Clinging to God and Guns segment that I do with Pastor Bennett every week, or most weeks, almost every week. For example, you'll get to hear the full interview with Ben Branam. You'll get to hear the full unedited recording session that I did with Bill and Kat Silvia from the end of the fall brawl. That'll be coming up later this week. We'll be adding that. There's over 250 audio clips, some of them exclusive to the Reformation Gun Club. Visit gunclub.armedlutheran.us, and for as little as $15.17 per year, you get access to all the great content, plus discounts from Talon gun grips, gun box gun safes, easy-to-see targets. We just added $199 Trust. Dowtech Force is also offering a discount to Reformation Gun Club members, and you can also save on Armed Lutheran swag and on Cook's holsters purchased through the Armed Lutheran shop. So check that out, gunclub.armedlutheran.us, for all the details. We'll have another full show. You'll hear from our full cast next week in episode 94. Be thinking about what you'd like to hear in episode 100, because that is coming up soon. Until next time, keep shooting, keep praying. We'll talk to you then.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Armed Lutheran Radio. For show notes, be sure to visit our website at www.armedlutheran.us. You can subscribe to this podcast on iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher Radio, and TuneIn. This podcast is made possible by Cook's Holsters and contributions from listeners like you.